Hello, welcome to Star Wars Spelt Out. I'm your host, Josh Chapman, and today I always get excited when you got a new guest, somebody that we haven't had on before. It's not the same old people. Every time I have old friends on, I'm like, oh, you're so excited. Everybody loves this person when they come on, but nothing better than having new guests. And today we've got a new guest who's just started their own podcast as well. So double banger. So from Sistas with Sabers, it's Maria. How you going, Maria?
Hey Josh, how's it going, man?
I'm good. How's the world where you live at the moment? Are you still locking down? Are things looking all right, or just same old?
Ohio is actually starting to spike. So I'm in Cincinnati, and we were kind of mellow at first, and COVID is spreading like a prostitute's legs.
I haven't heard that one. That's not bad. Yeah, well, here in Australia, we've been really good. We've had not much at all, and then Melbourne, where I live, we've had this little spike that's just jumped up. So, we've sort of gone from 3 or 4, 5 a day to 50 and 60. So the premier, the guy who runs the state, said, right, we're just locking down these suburbs where it's all happening, and we're going to blitz test everybody, and hopefully we'll be all right. So the next couple of weeks, not in my suburb, luckily, they've just locked it down in places. So it was really like we thought we were out. Australians were just sitting there smugly looking at everybody. And then, of course, we got too complacent, and we've had a little bit of a lockdown. But it's looking like it's going to be okay. Well, I hope things are all right. You can still go out and do things. I suppose you've got to just tread a little carefully.
Absolutely. I think the key word you said there was your leadership was doing something about it. So that is really cool when people do stuff about things that are wrong or concerning.
We had, not to get too much into styles of leadership, but we were on top of it very quickly, and our premier did get criticism from some points of like, oh, he's gone too hard, he's too harsh, he's a dictator, he's just making us do all this stuff. And then when we had a little outbreak, when he started opening it up again, he was like, oh, how could you let this happen? And, it's the poor guy's like, how can I win? Like I gave you an inch and look what happened. So hopefully it's just going to be a little blip. My partner got tested the other day because we got colds earlier in the week, and got a bit like, we better just check, and we got the all clear, so that's all good. So I'll try not to sneeze on the mic or anything. So that'd be all right. You can't catch it over the mic. You'll be okay.
No.
So how's your Star Wars world going at the moment in this sort of post Rise of Skywalker land? Are you finding enough stuff to get excited about?
I'm reasonably content. So there's more that I wish I had, but I like the behind the scenes Mandalorian. That was good. There's a new Padme book that I'm trying to get through. So there's some stuff out there to keep my interest. And the Clone Wars just wrapped, and so I enjoy going back to the Clone Wars. The Clone Wars is never really over for me. So, it's always good to go back to.
It's over for those clones, but not for you, though.
Yeah, well, it's when you find something and you fall in love with it, you never really let it go.
Now, how did it feel? Obviously, you're saying you're a big fan. How did it like? Did you feel like it would ever come back? Did it feel like a pipe dream, or did you always sort of have hope?
No, I gave up. I kind of let it go. I hung it up. I'm like, you know what? We got some great episodes, and I'm going to enjoy those for the rest of my life. And, every now and then Filoni would talk about something, and I'd get excited. But, I kind of tempered my excitement knowing that, it was probably never going to come back. And especially with George out of the picture, it was the last thing that he gave us. So I never thought that it would come back.
And then there you go. And then they just got to go out on their own terms, isn't it, really? It's always... It kind of felt like they've been thinking about it for a long time, like if we ever get to come back, we'll be able to do this, this thing, this epic sort of way to finish it off. Are you satisfied with the way it ended?
Yes and no. Like, I really wanted to see Asajj's story play out on camera because I think that character is just so important and so special. Those uniquely Clone Wars characters, Cad Bane, Aurra Sing, they need their stories finished. and I don't think we'll ever get to it. But I mean, overall, it wasn't bad. I wanted more of a definitive close to those unique characters that they introduced that are now just kind of in the ether.
It's a sort of everybody, isn't it? And that's the thing with that is that all the other characters, the ones that they focused on for the most part, especially the ones in Revenge of the Sith, we already know how they end. We know what happens to Obi-Wan, we know what happens to Anakin, we know what happens to Padme.
Absolutely.
So it was really only Ahsoka that kind of, and even Ahsoka's a bit different because she pops up in Rebels, so you kind of know where her story's going anyway. So it's more sort of connect the dots a little bit. Rex as well, I suppose.
Yeah. I was really hoping for more information on, those uniquely Clone Wars characters, Bo-Katan and, those guys. So we'll see. They may pop up somewhere else, I hear.
Yeah, well, there is all those sort of rumors about them popping up in The Mandalorian. And, we should kick off by talking a bit of Ahsoka. Now, you mentioned in your message, when we were messaging each other, you were saying, I've just got to put Ahsoka to bed. Now, did you really name your child Ahsoka?
Yeah. So
that is
she's
so
getting ready
cool.
to turn 2.
That is so
Thanks,
cool.
Man. Thanks, man. That's Wizard. Thank you.
You're bringing Wizard back.
Somebody's got to take it back. We're going to take that back. We're going to claim that one.
Yeah.
No. So her first name is Ahsoka. Her middle name is Rey. So she's got a Star Wars name.
That's so cool.
Absolutely.
We threw up.
And it's fun when you get to talk to people about it because they're like, oh, is that African for something? Or, what's that name mean? I'm like, it's Star Wars.
It's not another. Is it another name? Is there another? As in, does the name, is it a common name anywhere else in the world? I've never really done any research on it.
India.
Right.
It's actually a name of a great warrior who was a king, and then he became a monk. So he reached enlightenment and put down the sword and became a Buddhist.
No.
So that
doesn't
is
sound as much fun, does it? But
Indian fable around it. But yeah, it's always fun to. Some people go, oh, that's a pretty name. Like, where's that come from? Or
like Star Clone Wars, man. Come on. You even got Disney Plus?
What does it mean? What does that really mean? I'm like, well, it's Star Wars for she who makes her own destiny. That's what I say when people ask, like, what's the translation?
That's awesome. We had, I've got 2 little girls as well, and there was, Star Wars names that were thrown up in discussions that were quickly sort of, thrown down the thing. And I think when Kat, my partner, she was on an episode before our second daughter was born, we did talk about sort of different names and stuff, but nothing really stuck for us, unfortunately. But couldn't quite push that one over the edge. But well, with Ahsoka, like there's all these rumors coming back around to Mandalorian that she's going to turn up in Mandalorian. That does happen. I mean, Mandalorian was pretty huge. People, like saying some people don't know who Ahsoka is or don't know the name, but if she turns up in Mandalorian, a lot more people are going to know who Ahsoka is and know that name.
That's the hope. That's the hope. I'm excited for whatever live action holds for Ahsoka. I think it'll probably hit her when she's like 6. She watches Forces of Destiny, and we do Clone Wars and Rebels every now and then. But it's, her attention span is so short right now.
Yeah.
She's really not able to keep up, but she did get interested in the live stream, the Clone Wars cast reunion.
Oh, yeah.
She noticed Ashley on the screen because she read a book not too long ago on the Disney YouTube or whatever channel, and she saw her there too, and she pointed and she said, "Me, Ahsoka too."
Oh, come on! You get me right in the feels there, Maria. Well, those Forces of Destiny, I love those Forces of Destiny ones, and I remember when they came out, and some people were like, "What is this? Who is this for? What is this kitty crap?" I'm just like, no way, man! This is absolutely awesome for like my daughters as well. Olive particularly, who's 4 now, she's nearly 5. Like that was her way into
No.
Star Wars. She loves those, and they've got them on Disney Plus, and she wants to watch them all the time. So, and we've got a couple of layers and a couple of rays of the dolls. We've got a Luke as well. And yeah, she loves those.
That
And then,
Luke is sweet. I
know.
like that Luke.
Well, the Luke actually I got for myself, and he's still sitting on the shelf in the packet. He hasn't come out yet. But the Ray and the Leia and the Wicket, and they're all. And I've got another Ray for Sloane, my youngest daughter, which is just in her room at the moment. But they're great, and the Galaxy of Adventure stuff's quite cool as well too. I think they've kind of pivoted to that now. But
Yeah.
I hope they make more.
I'm waiting on that Galaxy of Adventures Ahsoka figure. They announced it, but I haven't seen it like hit retail market, so I'm waiting on that.
Your profile photo, you've got the her universe Ahsoka top on, I believe, if that hasn't changed since I checked.
Man.
Do you get down with all the Ahsoka merch? Is that sort of like your collecting thing, or you kind of is that where it goes? Where the collecting, is it focused like that, or are you just like, I get a little bit of everything?
There's some characters I have some focus on. Absolutely, Ahsoka's one of them. Leia is another one. She's kind of my work role model at work. I lead a bunch of people. I lead about 18 individuals, and I try to do the Leia thing and lead people with integrity and make sure I'm not losing any fighters out there. But that's a story for another day.
You don't have some wisecrack cracking guy in the corner who's always trying to, makes your life difficult, like Leia has Han there. Just like, you have to put him back in his place a little bit.
All the time. Couldn't imagine why a guy would think they were better at it.
So just doubling back around to Ahsoka, obviously there's rumors that Rosario Dawson might play her. Does that, like, in your head when you think about live action Ahsoka Tano, is that sort of, does Rosario Dawson fit?
Well, I mean, I always kind of wanted an unknown woman of color. Let's give someone new a shot. And I always kind of pictured a hybrid of like a woman of color actress and Ashley maintaining the voice.
Yep.
Because she's been the Ahsoka presence for so long, and she's such a wonderful person if you ever get a chance to meet her, and she'll listen to all of your crazy stories and theories, and she's just such a sweetheart about it. I probably spent 30 minutes crying on her and showing her all my tattoos, and she was just really kind and patient with me. And I'd want to see more people like that get big roles in Star Wars.
Yep. Now, did you always consider Ahsoka a woman of color when you saw her? Ever she's sort of like slightly orangey looking and stuff, but
absolutely,
as it was always
absolutely.
just like
Ahsoka is black.
To that. Yep. Ahsoka
is black.
I don't have any
absolutely.
I've never really sort of given it that much thought, but as soon as someone said Rosario Dawson, I was like, oh, that makes total sense. She doesn't look a million miles away, especially with the older version of her. But I mean, that's good that you can just look at her straight and go, yep, claiming that's ours.
Well,
that's
the full lips. Full lips kind of give it away.
Yeah.
And there aren't many female Jedi of color. I mean, there's Addie Galea, sure. I would even say Luminara might be on the fence. But, that are actually doing something.
Yeah.
Not just kind of hanging out in the background or folding laundry or whatever they got them doing at the temple. Like, she's in the middle of the action.
Yeah.
So I was really excited when I first saw her, and I've always kind of envisioned her as a woman of color.
Yep.
And I think she approaches things similar to the way that I would. So... yeah, I always kind of felt like she should have been played by a woman of color. The same way I feel like Sabine is inherently Asian. Like, I really want to see an Asian actress play her. Hell, Tia Sircar's doing a great job. Well, she's a live-action person as well. Give her a shot.
Yeah, it's just that weird, that sort of cross... When you move animated characters into real life, it just sort of... It does inherently can sometimes be really weird and off-putting, and I think Star Wars stuff is usually all right because there's a bit more detail. I always think of stuff like kids growing up, like the Flintstones movie or something like that, when they move like the Flintstone and then John Goodman is Fred Flintstone. You're like, oh, that's weird. Like that doesn't make any sense at all because I think the designs are so much more simplistic and stuff. But I think the Star Wars stuff for the most part has crosses over. I mean, Saw Gerrera was crossed over no problems as well. And they're going to be doing more and more. Yeah.
Oh, man. If you're worried about Saw Gerrera's eye color, grow up.
People are worried about everything. Oh, my God. It's just one thing or another. Now, did you have tickets to Celebration?
Absolutely.
Now, has that... How many have you been before?
Yeah, we went to Orlando. Was that 2018, 2019? I don't know, 2016.
So you weren't at Chicago? We didn't cross paths in Chicago. I didn't even know it.
No, dude. I just had Ahsoka. So at that point, like, she was still on formula.
Yep.
And I just couldn't figure out how to get there with her. And, and I didn't want to bring, like, a brand new baby into a con, like, situation where she could get sick. Most of them don't get their shots.
Yeah, I got exhausted carrying my backpack around. I don't know what it would be like carrying a newborn around. And my daughter Sloane had been born in December before, so she was probably about 5 months when I went over. And luckily my partner graciously let me still go.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Because I kind of thought when we sort of, a celebration, you've got to plan so far out. And then when we got pregnant again, I'm going, oh, well, I guess that's it for celebration. She's like, no, it'll be okay. Don't worry. Like second time around as well, She's like, oh, we've done it all before. It'll be okay. But so was it sort of, with Celebration in Anaheim, did you feel like the writing was on the wall for a while? Like you kind of like it's definitely not going to happen. I'm not, I already feel like this is only a matter of time before they call this thing off.
Yeah, we were probably about 75-80% sure that there wasn't anything going down. I think what really hurt was like the lack of information. Like just pull the Band-Aid off. I'm one of those people where I don't want to guess about it. Just tell me if we're breaking up, we're breaking up. Whatever it is. Along, man. Whatever.
Stop texting me every now and then with like this non-committal kind of stuff. Look, it was. I understand from their perspective because there's a million things that they've got to deal with, rescheduling, insurance, and blah 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 blah, vendors and blah blah. So it's not just a matter of like you can just pull a plug and magically do it. So I'm sure for months they've probably been scrambling behind the scenes, but it doesn't make it any less easier when you've committed a bunch of money and time and you just don't. Everything's kind of up in the air and you're just wondering. And especially for us coming from Australia, it was particularly tricky because we knew we weren't getting out, so that they're not letting us out of the country anytime soon. Where the country is locked down. So, we've seen.
I told my husband, I'm like, why would we go without the Australians?
Well, now you better, at least now in 2022, you'll be on. Hopefully, your podcast, which we'll get to in a minute, will be going. You'll be big time by then, and you would have guessed it on here a few times, and we'll be able to hang out and. It'll be there'll be upsides, I think.
Absolutely. I think right now it's not a smart move to have it, and especially with half the world not being able to visit the country, like it's not a cool time at all. And I'm a picture person, so when we go, we get pictures with all the celebrities. Oh, nice. Nobody's going to take a picture right now. Are you kidding me? So I swear why would I even want to go?
Like, I swear that's Hayden Christensen behind that mask in that photo. It could be anybody. Like,
oh man.
So you picture person, like if you, did you do it last time when you went to Orlando? Did you get a bunch of pictures as well? Like you mentioned Ashley Ecclestone. I assume you got a photo with her.
Yeah, we got Hayden, we got Mark, we got Vanessa Marshall.
Did you get Carrie?
No. I missed her. She was in Louisville, and they cut us off. We were in line, and I was in tears. I saw her from a distance, and they're like, "No, we're not doing anymore." And I'm just like, "You don't understand. This is important." Mm-hmm. And no money, no ticket.
Yeah. Oh, wow, it's such a shame, isn't it? And I know I do
It
have
really is.
I have some friends who've had photos with her as well, and just absolutely rave about it. And even though it's so, I haven't done it. I thought about it at Celebration, but I was like, there wasn't anybody I desperately wanted to do it with, and money was already pretty tight coming from Australia, so you had to pick your battles. But people go, oh, it's the greatest 3 seconds of your life, because you kind of in and then smile and then you're out, but you get that that moment. I mean, did you get a chance to really chit chat with anybody? Are you really just like, hi, how's it going? I think you're great. Smile.
Yeah, it was pretty quick. I think our longest interaction was probably with Femi Taylor. And that was at a different convention, but she is amazing and so important as the first Black woman in Star Wars. Like I couldn't say a whole lot. Like I'm just crying and oh my god,
Hey, there's nothing wrong with
she's amazing.
Being a crier,
Well, I'm sure she thinks I'm a nutball, but it is what it is.
We always make the joke on here that our friend of the show, Catherine Neen, who I know you listen, you'd be familiar with Catherine. She loves Diego Luna, and we always talk about like we'll get you a photo with Diego. Well, we talked at this celebration because we thought maybe the Cassian show he would be there, and now obviously we're gonna have to wait. Like, still gonna happen. She's like, I'll need someone to hold me up. And we're like, well, I think they get people crying and getting excited all the time. So it's good. There you go. Got a fellow. So don't worry, Maria, she cries as well. So don't feel there's no shame in crying when you're meeting someone you really want to meet. Look, it's a bummer about Celebration. It really is. But are you just going to roll over the tickets? Did you have tickets for your whole family or what? Or family
me and
or
my
friends?
husband.
Now, does he? Is he into Star Wars as well, or does he sort of indulge your interests?
He's a fan, but he's not a mega fan. He's not.
He's like my partner,
as strong as me. He's a fan. He's got Star Wars tattoos. He can hold a conversation. Yeah. He's pretty good. He was okay with Ahsoka, so I think he's a big fan. But he's just not. He doesn't listen to every podcast because he's got this thing called a life.
That's all right. But non-podcast people don't understand podcast people, I don't think. So how did you breach that in the I'm assuming you brought Ahsoka to the table. Did you have a bunch of other names? Did you kind of go, this is the one I really want, I'm just going to put a couple of bad names around it, so this, so this is looks good? There was a strategy. It was just like, oh, look, I think this is the one.
Well, I always kind of wanted Ahsoka, but I looked at a bunch of names and Padme, Jen, and who else was on there? Rey. Asajj was on there.
Ooh.
And, we just kind of went through and it never was like, why is that a Star Wars name? At one point we thought maybe Diana for Wonder Woman, because we're big pop culture people. So, it never was like, oh, my grandmother's name. Like,
Grandma Ahsoka.
It's not. It was Grandma Ahsoka. I don't know what she's gonna do when
one
she gets
one day it will be Grandma Ahsoka. Yeah, like, where'd that name come from? It's like, well, there was this thing called Star Wars, and now they're up to episode 46. But back in the day, your great grandmother, she loved Ahsoka Tano.
Well, I think it's a wonderful gift for your child. I have a very boring name. Everyone that's ever had a Hispanic daughter named her Maria. So I think it's cool for her to have a name of a hero, and that's something that she can hold on to when things get tough.
Yeah, we certainly didn't name our girls after heroes, but Olive isn't a particularly well-known name, and Sloane is definitely not a particularly well-known. That's Ferris Bueller's girlfriend. Most people know her as. I think there's a tennis player.
I was going to go with Ray Sloane.
Oh, yeah. Well, yeah.
I thought you were doing that.
No. I think... when did that book come out? I hadn't read the book, so I only became really aware of the character recently when... I can't read everything, but when the Squadrons thing came out, people were like, it's Ray Sloane, she's in there, look, there she is. I'm just like, oh damn, I didn't even know that there was. I'd heard the name kicked around, but I didn't know enough about her. I think there's a tennis player called Sloane as well. And there's a famous area in London called Sloane Square in central London. Not that I lived there, because
Nice.
it's one of the most expensive places in the world to live. It's like
Oh my
right in the
God.
middle of London. I think it's near Regent's Park. It's like crazy rich area, but I always like that. Sloane Square. Now let's talk podcasting.
Okay.
You've done the best move when it comes to podcasting, which is I'm not going to wait around to be asked to be on a podcast, even though you have just been asked to be on a podcast. I'm going to get out there and I'm going to make my own podcast and do it the way I want. Now, I'm assuming that's how it went. You tell me more about how it actually went.
It's kind of been this like awakening, right? There's something that was there, and now it's awake, right? It's like, I never thought about that. I was listening to Forced Toast, one of the other podcasts I listened to.
Share that to the girls.
Shout out to Alice and Laura. And they said, I wonder if there's any black female podcasts out there for Star Wars. And I looked, and I didn't see any that were uniquely tied to just black women standing on their own 2 feet. There are a lot of podcasters out there that have black women as a part of the lineup, or they're a duo with someone else. And I said, you know what? That's something I think I want to do. So I put a tweet out there just to see, is there anybody else out there like me?
Yep.
That reads all the books and, knows what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about someone who just shows up at the events, the movies. I'm talking about someone who legit is into this.
Yep.
And I got a lot of responses back. And I'm like, wow, there's a lot more of you than I thought. And we got on a Skype call, and I saw faces that looked like mine, voices that sounded like mine for the first time ever. I've been listening to podcasts for over 4 years. And it's the one thing that like relaxes me. It's like, I get to hear from my friends, talk to me about Star Wars, but they're not people of color. And that's a component, especially right now with everything that's going on in the U.S. There's a real awakening to the fact that we need our own. We need representation that's fair and equal, And I always thought, man, it'd be cool to do a pod, but I never had an idea of what to do it on, and until now. And it all kind of came together, and here I am looking at these beautiful 8 women who I think now we're 10, we found a sister in Japan.
Awesome.
So we're just going to keep doing it, and we're just going to keep spreading. And, each week we'll do the call.
I just love how you...
And if you show up, you show up.
I just love how you've absolutely jumped in the deep end. Like, it's you're sort of running by the seat of your pants, figuring out how podcasting works and stuff. And, it's not that hard. Everyone can pick it up. It's, which you're learning like, oh, man, this is easy. But... going in with that many people off the jump, like I always make fun of someone like Araj on Sith List, where he's got like 5 or 6 guys, and trying to juggle and throw to people, and it's a skill. It's not easy. It does take a certain sort of personality to be able to be conscious of like, all right, I've got to keep the conversation going. I've got to engage everybody. I've got to make sure that they feel involved and all that kind of stuff. That's why most people start off with 1 or 2 people, or maybe just one and a guest and things. And you've gone, you know what? I think I'll just have 8 people on a call or 10 people on a call to start with. So
I'm really used to it at my job. Like we have a staff meeting that is now virtual, and there's about 36 people on it.
Yeah, so you know how to work a room, basically. Like you have
to.
How to engage that, keep the things going, engage with the people. So that's I don't know whether I could do that. I don't have work. I don't have people under me or anything like that. It's just me and a couple other people in my little team. So I don't know whether I'd be able to wrangle all those voices and keep stuff going. But are you sort of just gonna? Is it just sort of general chit chat to start with, or are you going to do topic space? Or are you just going to let's just chat and see where we end up?
Well, I've been asking the ladies for a lot of feedback because I'm going to host, but it's certainly democratic, right? I'm not in charge. The Force is in charge. So I just kind of ask them what they want to do. So we've got a few segments lined up. We've got a moment of appreciation every week that we're going to start doing. Tell 'em sis, where if somebody's got something on their mind they want to say to the community or to whoever, the floor is theirs to air their grievance or whatever they've got on their mind. We've also discussed looking at the original Clone Wars animated series. So
Yep.
that was the homework this week, was to at least watch one of those episodes, and we're going to speak about that. And then, of course, with some of the newer girls, the two new girls will probably, cover what got you into Star Wars, why you love Star Wars.
Yep. Do you are you sort of going to consciously address sort of characters of color in Star Wars, or is it just going to be kind of a natural thing? Like, how do you sort of feel like Star Wars in general, doing okay but could do better? Is that where you kind of feel like they're at the moment?
I think it's a nice start. So right now there are 14 black women in Star Wars as main characters that have names.
Mm-hmm.
And of those, people can probably only name 2 if they really sat and thought about it. So yeah, once a month we're going to do a character dissection on each one of those women, and then we're going to ask the question, is this an accurate representation of a black woman in space? Why not? What needs to change? What needs to stay the same? And how can we better represent black women in the future?
Yep. Do you sort of have a dream character you'd like to see in Star Wars? Like you said, like Ahsoka is sort of on the way, being front and center as a character, but as far as like leading a film kind of thing, like basically, like being the Rey of the next Star Wars film.
It'd be nice to see a black woman with a lightsaber. I'm hopeful, but I don't know if that's in the cards. But that would be the goal. I think would be or a resistance leader. Yep. Maybe that's the way. I don't know. I just, I'd like to see more diversity in the representation and, maybe get some stories about socioeconomic inequality and how that plays a role in the overall galactic universe.
Well,
call me a prequelist.
Well, we've just got this High Republic thing that's coming out that we know nothing about, so we're going to get this whole new era with all new characters and all new situations, and so something like that is kind of ripe for that, even though it's only kind of books to start with. But
books are a good starting place.
Well,
that's where Ray Sloan started.
Yeah, and if people jive with those stories and stuff, they'll start translating it into features and stuff on the screen, and get to see a little bit more. Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting angle to come from, because obviously, I'm just a straight white guy who's been serviced completely from the jump and had everything his own way, and
yeah, man.
And it's being involved in Star Wars podcasts and even Star Wars Tutor and stuff, it just makes you more aware of how other people perceive stuff, basically, because I'm sort of aware of it, but I'm probably aware that it exists, but not as aware of how it affects people as well. You know what I mean? Like, I try to be sensitive to and go, oh, it would be great if they had these things. And every time there's more characters and there's more diversity, I just go, oh, great, But I don't appreciate how much it means to people as much until I hear from someone like yourself or other people as well. Like someone like character like Rose, having a person of Asian descent in there, and what that means to people as well. And so
that's
really
big.
Yeah, it's really big, and it really shits me, when people get uppity about that. So, like, the term forced diversity is just the worst. I hate that so much, and that's coming from my perspective, where I've had everything my own way. I'm sure somebody like you, who's, like you said, 14 characters and that's it. And you're just like, hey man, maybe we need to, maybe not force, but maybe just some equality would be nice.
Yeah, that would be cool.
More of that, please.
Totally agree. Yeah, I think the future is going to be interesting for Star Wars, and we've had a second unit director, black female, in Rise of Skywalker.
Yep.
So that's something. That's a good start. But I think we got a long way to go. I'm really, more than a character, like, I'd like to see some writing that comes from a black woman to the screen.
Yep.
Like, that would be amazing. Like, what's that story gonna be like?
It's
So
been
I
hard
think
enough just
now's a
getting
great time.
it's been hard enough just getting a woman in general. I know the next Taika
Mm-hmm.
Waititi's film is going to have a woman co-writer as well, so that's a step in the right direction again, I suppose. But it just
Absolutely.
it was like, well, I guess if you got to
And
go
Deborah
to there to go to
Chow,
the next one, yeah, and Deborah Chow as well, who's doing an awesome job, and
Obi-Wan.
and also Bryce Dallas Howard, I don't think is getting enough credit as well because her episode is, people go, oh, it was a little bit of a lull, but it's easily the most technically hardest episode, that one, because it was, had outside and all sorts of stuff going on. Like it's more complicated than a lot of, especially when you watch those behind the scenes episodes, you go like, oh wow, like she really got chucked in the deep end on that one, and she was probably the least experienced as well, and they gave her the hardest job.
Yeah, and she had to establish the relationship between Cara Dune and the Mandalorian because we really don't get a lot of prior context. So that's got to be difficult too. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. What did you think of the making of Mandalorian stuff? Do you get sort of all nerdy on the making of things, or do you
Love it?
Yeah,
love it.
Have you seen?
I was an Empire of Dreams person. So,
I love that documentary.
I love the behind the scenes. I love the puppetry episode. That was cool. That was really badass.
Does your little girl like Frozen at all? No.
I have a pretty strict anti-princess policy. So we don't recognize a lot of princesses here. We recognize Leia, and we recognize Mulan, and maybe Tiana on a good day. I'm really nervous about the whole Disney princess. Put your little girl in a dress, all her dreams will come true. A man will fix all your problems. And Frozen's a little bit different, but there's not a lot of diversity in there. And I think Frozen 2 tried to fix that. But I kind of just want her to be the star of her own show, and not be looking for a guy. The dude will come if he's supposed to come.
Yeah.
And if he's not, fuck him.
Oh, the reason I brought it up was really just because they on Disney Plus they put a making of Frozen 2 on like a docu-series, sort of similar in the vein of the Mandalorian one, but I actually think it's better than the Mandalorian one. Just what they show, just from a point of. It's a little bit more warts and all. You sort of see them, the production side of it a lot more, and them struggling to break the story, and things kind of go bad, and they have to cut songs and do things, and they hit brick walls, and there's a real struggle in there that's kind of like, oh wow, this is actually. I mean, it works out because the movie comes out, but you know what I mean? Like Mandalorian's a lot more sort of them sitting around a table going, oh, we had a great time. It wasn't this great. And we did this and we did this technology, which is, as a Star Wars fan, you eat it up because you just want to see it all. But as far as the actual, if I'd seen the making of Mandalorian or, like Rise of Skywalker or something in the vein of this Frozen one, where it's like, you're sitting in a room with some uncomfortable meetings and things going on where they're going, oh man, I don't think we're going to land this plane. It's kind of like the, have you ever seen the beginning, the episode 1 documentary?
Oh yeah,
which is just
who hasn't seen that?
Which is great because it's just there's just bits where they're just looking at George like, you are, what are you doing? You're crazy.
McCallum.
Oh yeah,
he's the star.
What a dude.
He's really the star of that. He's the hero. He's the unsung hero.
Yeah. Look, I've spoken it millions of times. But my favorite part of that is when he calls Ewan McGregor on the phone, and he just he slumps back in his chair. He's just like, dude, he's just such a Hollywood.
Yeah.
He wants to bro down with Ewan McGregor. Now, going forward, obviously Mando Season 2 with the prospect of a live-action Ahsoka Tano, is very, whet the appetite. What about the other stuff? What about Cassian and Obi-Wan? Do they sort of hold interest? Are you sort of like, just give me all the Star Wars? Or is there one that you're like, oh, I really want that?
I think they're all gonna be interesting. Diego Luna reminds me of my father because my father's Cuban. So I'm excited to see Cassian and more of him. I think there's also Ahsoka opportunity there because she was Fulcrum. And she might pass the mantle, and maybe Pablo Hidalgo will come back as his character. That would be cool. I think Obi-Wan could also hold an Ahsoka connection, but even if it doesn't, it's going to be great. I was a fan of Ewan McGregor as Obi-Wan, and he did a really good job. So either way, I'm excited for whatever the future of Star Wars live action holds. I'm not going to leave just because I'm not represented, but I am hopeful that they will learn.
Yeah, I think they're on the right track. And again, I can only I can kind of gauge it from what I see. But again, when I hear people like yourself and other voices, where they're really seeing themselves, that's when I get a better idea of whether it's actually succeeding or not. You know what I mean? Like I can kind of go, oh look, Janna's in The Rise of Skywalker. That's great. But until I hear the opinions of the people who are being represented, I don't. That's probably how I get a better feel for whether people feel like it's working or not, I suppose.
Yeah, I wish I had bought some Janna merchandise. I just couldn't do it. I couldn't bring myself to do it.
Didn't like the character?
No, they killed the last black woman. So it's like,
of
fool me once, Val, shame on you.
They
fool me twice, I'm an ass.
I'm not Newton stupid. As well, who's just awesome. Like
I know, wasted her.
Could have completely spun off. I mean, she could have. Maybe she did a barrel roll off that bridge, and she's parachuted down, and she's. I actually, to be honest, I kind of when I saw Solo, I went spoiler free like I always do. I kind of thought she might have been Emphas Nest. I sort of thought that she'd pulled the helmet off and it might have been her, and that was the twist. But I mean, I liked the twist that it was sort of like a cool red-headed teenager under there. But I did actually kind of think, it's Tandy Newton. Like you can't just kill her off now,
right?
So when you saw Solo, did that in the cinema, you kind of like, oh man, like did you have to?
I had mixed feelings. Because I'm in an interracial relationship, I was happy to see, that displayed in Star Wars for the first time ever. That was cool. I was happy because we got some Clone Wars stuff with the Maul at the end.
Yep.
But I would have liked to seen Tandy Newton play Woody Harrelson's character.
Yep.
And him play the other character because the mentor figure always dies anyway.
Yeah. Yeah. What did you feel about Rise of Skywalker? Have I opened a can of
Skywalker.
There's always a little
like right. Everybody goes.
Let me. Yes.
It's like a stir fry, right? You get your shrimp and your noodles and your broccoli and your little chickpeas and your baby corn. So I eat it, but I pick the little baby corns out that I don't like.
I like the baby corns. You're like, I'll just put those aside. I don't need to chew on them. Like I'm a grown up. Like I've earned it.
There you go. It's just, it's one of those things where it's like, you can't make everyone happy. I hate to say I told you so, but Chris Terrio, no bueno. So it is what it is.
Yeah, the guy who wrote Batman v Superman was always a bit sort of like
right,
and people kind of go, he won an Oscar for Argo. I'm like, yeah, but that was a book. Like the story was already there. Like he didn't have to invent the story of Argo, and it really happened. He
adapted.
So one had already happened, and two he adapted it. So it's not like he came up with it by himself. If Batman and Superman had been a real thing that had happened, and Batman and Superman were bashing up each other, and one said Martha's your mum and Martha's my mum, then maybe we give the guy a little bit more class. But let's do a massive 180 here and just ask a completely unrelated question. But talking about just pop culture and like the Snyder Cut, does the idea of that excite you, or do you kind of feel like it just gives whinging people more voice, or you're like, I'd like to see what happens?
I'm a DC fan, so I'm obviously interested. I hate the way Zach was made to leave or whatever happened there.
Yep.
And I'm excited to see his vision. But what I don't want is for a certain group of that fandom to overtake it. You know what I mean? So yes, it's great that Snyderverse and his cut is happening. But some of the fandom can be a little negative. So I'm excited to see what happens, but I don't think it's going to be the answer to the ultimate bro down.
Yeah.
From what I hear, there's going to be more Wonder Woman, and that's always a good thing.
Yep.
Gal Gadot is so wonderful. such a great role model and a wonderful person.
Is that your favorite DC film, Wonder Woman?
Yeah. My favorite hero of all time is Wonder Woman. She was the first female hero. She's everything. So I've always wanted to see her on the big screen, and it's finally happened. Getting ready to happen twice over.
Yep.
So it's an exciting time to be a Wonder Woman fan and a fan of the original source material.
And she's always been, even though some of the DC films, your Batman, Superman, Justice League, have kind of been diminishing returns. Always felt like she's always been really good in them as well, though. You know, like you kind of go, well, Wonder Woman was good. You know, I always had issues with Batman in those films. I'm very much like Batman shouldn't kill anybody. I don't care if he's had a rough time. You know, I like the Batman has a certain code and does things a certain way. And I kind of just felt Batman Superman was kind of joyless, and then Justice League was just a bit of a mess. I really didn't like Suicide Squad. I loved Birds of Prey, though. I thought Birds of Prey. I like Wonder Woman, and I actually quite like bits of Aquaman, even though it's insane.
Yeah, there's a lot going on there, but it's fun, and I like that it doesn't take itself too seriously. Aquaman was good.
Yeah. I always like, things that don't take themselves too seriously, and that's why I like the idea of Taika Waititi doing Star Wars. That he's just got that right level of spectacle and silliness.
Yeah, I had never watched most of his stuff before. I'm not a Marvel person, so I don't watch any of the Marvel stuff.
Oh wow!
Just because I'm a blue team person. I'm on the other team. And I'm happy for you. I'm glad that your team is doing well. That's great news. It bodes well for everyone, but I'm not interested in that stuff. I've watched and read DC properties my whole life, so
yep.
That's my team.
So have you ever seen a Taika Waititi film? Have you seen Jojo Rabbit or What We Do in the Shadows, or
I saw some clips of What We Do in the Shadows, so that was pretty good.
It's pretty silly.
But the first the real thing was The Mandalorian.
Oh yeah,
that wasn't a clip.
Yeah, if you get a chance to just look at even some of his smaller films, like Hunt for the Wilder People, and he can tell very sweet personal stories and stuff as well. He's not just sort of a wackadoo kind of guy, but obviously Thor, we won't talk about the other side. The red team? Is it red team, blue team? I've the first time I've heard
Marvel's
this.
logo has always been red.
Yeah, and
DC Detective Comics was white and yellow, I believe, at one point in time, and then they made the switch to the blue and the white in the late 80s, early 90s, and it's been blue and white ever since.
I just had no idea. I just kind of, I play both sides. Really, I don't take it. I'm like, I'll take a bit of
that's
this.
okay.
I'll take a bit of that. I like a bit of this. I like a bit of that. I don't get.
And that's totally fine.
And that's totally fine.
It's
Don't write me any angry tweets, anybody. That's.
Oh God.
I don't need to hear that. Let's just double back around onto the podcast again, because we should get a little bit more details on this. Now, you've kind of done the first sort of test run episode, which I think just came online, didn't it? I think pretty much just before we started recording. So,
yeah,
is there a sense of nervousness of just sort of putting yourself out in the world a little bit?
All the time. Especially because my connection to Star Wars, when I really gelled with Star Wars, that's such a personal story. And that's why when people have asked me in the past, I kind of shied away from it because it's such a personal story. But I think those are the stories that really connect you to something for your life, When
did you first see it?
So I was a prequel generation kid, and I saw episode 1 in the theater, and it really didn't hit home for me until much later in my life when I saw Empire. So that was the connection moment, and I actually watched Empire in a treatment facility. It's a place where people go when life is fed up with their bullshit, and they put them into a treatment center where you and a bunch of other crazy people work out your feelings for 30, 60, 90, 180 days or whatever it takes.
And you had Empire Strikes Back there
And
with you.
it was the only movie that wasn't about drugs ruining people's lives.
Really? That's
Yeah.
oh wow. I mean, I've been unfortunate enough to not be in that situation, but I kind of are surprised that isn't.
Good for you.
That they have the whole trilogy there. Or so, did you see Empire Strikes Back sort of standalone without? You hadn't seen Star Wars or Return of the Jedi, or was it just more you went back to that and that was the one that was there, and that's the one that you sort of watched over
I
and
was
over?
more familiar. Yeah, I was more familiar with the prequels because they happened like when I was a youngster. The original trilogy just kind of was a blur for me. So for that period in time, all I had was Empire. And I could really like kind of get a new perspective on the Yoda stuff,
Yep.
Learning about addiction and how to overcome that and getting in touch with those feelings and why these things were happening. And I had like that aha moment. I'm like, oh, that's what he's talking about. This is deep shit, you know? And here I am almost 11 years later, still in love with Star Wars and still not doing bad things or using drugs and alcohol.
That's amazing. That's
Yeah, man.
my journey to Star Wars is way more boring than that. It's always I always love finding out where people connect with this stuff. So when they were bringing it back, was that just like Christmas when they just said, "Hey, Disney, we're buying it. We're making more movies. Here we go again."
I cried. I cried because I knew it would live forever now. Not just in my heart, but someone else is going to find this thing. You go anywhere and someone can tell you at least one of those corny princesses. So I'm like, Star Wars is going to live forever now.
Yep. And it'll be.
So it was a great day.
Yeah, and there'll be, and like with anything, there'll be ones that are better than others. There'll be ones that some people like that some people don't like, and that's just the nature of the beast. Like I would rather have more of it, at a certain level of quality than waiting and having nothing or it ending. Like I walked out of Revenge of the Sith in 2005 and just going like exhausted from the film because it's quite intense film, especially towards the end, and it was 3 a.m, whatever. But also just going, oh well, I guess that's it. That's it for Star Wars. Well, what a shame. I guess we'll just have to find something else. But now that it'll just roll on, and having kids as well now, and hopefully they'll get excited about it. And if they do, they do. If they don't, they don't. I've got 2, maybe 1 out of 2, but we'll see. Have to try that, and you've got your daughter as well that you can. You don't want to project onto them, but you want them to be excited by the things that you get excited by.
Yeah, it's been give and take lately because she's kind of gotten interested in horses.
That sounds expensive.
Yeah. So she's into the spirit universe and She-Ra. We've been doing some She-Ra to try to supplement. So it's give and take. I can't always be forcing Forces of Destiny on her because she'll go the other way. So it's give and take. And
has she asked for a horse
hopefully, yet? No.
We've had that.
She's seen a horse.
Oh, okay.
So that's been enough for now. As she sees horses and she's got a couple horse toys, and that's enough for her. I made her this. So I got this sheep that's a rocking horse that makes sounds, and then I just went and got some felt and I glue gunned that on over the ears and made the ears like really long and pointy, and I colored the fur a little bit and I made it into like a favier so it rocks and it does the sound,
Oh, man.
and she rides on that a lot. So
you are committed.
I was able to kind of make the horse idea with Star Wars. Oh yeah, you haven't seen her room then. Probably.
Oh, no.
Her room is amazing, too. Yeah, it's the kind of room I wish I had. So it's got all the characters, Ahsoka's in there, Obi-Wan's in there, Anakin's in there, Rey's in there. It's insane.
We've got a few... Olive's got a Force Awakens poster on her wall, and there's a few odds and sods and things around. But, yeah, she's got a lot of... she's into a lot of things. But we have been asked about getting a horse, and I always just say, where are we going to put it? She just says, in the backyard. And I said, well, who's going to clean up its poo? And she just sort of looks at me. I'm like, that's not going to happen anytime soon. So maybe she's just angling for a cat or something instead now. But we'll have to see. Go. Maria, thanks so much for coming on. Thank you for listening.
No worries,
you let me know that you actually have been listening to the podcast as well for a while, which is doubly awesome. So, and I'm just chuffed that just like, I'm just going to get out there and do my own thing. So, how can people find the podcast? You've got the Twitter handle and stuff now, and how can they find you?
That's a great question.
I wasn't know there'd be questions on this.
So it's at Sabers with is the Twitter account, and the podcast is Sistas with Sabers. So hopefully we will have another episode coming up soon. But it's a roundtable open discussion with as many Black women that want to come on and talk with us.
Awesome. I'm looking forward to hearing the next episode. And I'm also looking forward to getting you to come back here if you'd ever like to come back on. And
oh, yeah, for sure.
And also Celebration 2022 when we can hang out and, go looking for some Ahsoka merch.
I know, right? Like, I need an excuse.
Oh, man.
But yeah, that'd be great, man.
If she's moved to live action, just think about all this new stuff that's going to come out. You'll have to, start getting the wish list out, start making some notes, get some more shelf space.
Yeah, that's it, man. I tell you what, though, I think Hallmark's done with me. They might shut down all the Ahsoka stuff because I'm like, hey, man, what happened with that itty bitty?
Yeah, awesome. Thank you for coming on. We'll get you back again. Thanks to everybody for listening. As always, you can get our stuff, StarWarsSpelledOut.com, all those sort of things. Maria, thanks again. What a pleasure. And hopefully speak to you soon.
Yeah, no worries, man. Thank you so much.
Bye.
Bye.